Jesus, take the wheel. That's one button. Wee. Okay, monsters. Look at the FPS lag. Look at FPS lag. 25 FPS. And all these culling strike markers above enemies cause so much FPS lag.
Steel yourself.
Hey guys, been a while. I wanted to make a video and talk about this build that I was doing. It's like a fake flicker strike, but probably even faster. It's 100% culling strike against normal and magic even monsters. This is not really gonna be a build guide video because I'm not really happy with my single target setup and my defenses, but just kind of like an experiment results. The class can actually be different. I'm doing as a Titan because initially I calculated that I would need Titan for the extra 50% where is this? 50% increased effect of small passives to push the culling strike threshold to 186%. That's how much you need. But basically I'm using this helmet, 121% increased culling strike threshold. This is corrupted one. I paid 6 divines. I believe you need at least 120%, but now this helmet is like 20 divines for some reason. I'm not sure why. You don't actually even need this helmet. You can actually use these gloves, which are like 40 exalts now. It keeps dropping in price. However, if you use only these gloves, then you still need to ramp up. You get 10% increased culling strike threshold per culling strike, and you can stack up to 20, so you can get 200% increased culling strike threshold from these gloves alone. And you need only 186% for normal monsters to be cullable at 100% life. The skill that I'm using is actually level 1, it's the Killing Palm. And I'm even using this thing, which is kind of experimental, it's not needed, but Killing Palm has Culling Strike inbuilt, so you don't need to get Culling Strike anywhere else. It cannot be avoided, and it has been reworked slightly. It now dashes and strike additional valid targets. And those additional valid strike targets are enemies that are in the Culling Strike threshold. So in order for this to work as a flicker strike, you cannot really rely on decimating strike from Witch Hunter. Because the enemy already needs to be in the culling strike threshold for this skill to even strike those enemies. And if it doesn't strike, then decimating strike would also not get triggered. Essentially, it works like a flicker strike. As long as there is a next enemy nearby that can be culled, it will strike that target. However, in practice, this is can be very clunky in some situations, like going through the doorway. It will not strike anything else other than one target. I don't know why it just feels clunky in some cases. Some obstacles, but other times it can just flicker across the whole map. Now I'm not really using these power charges at all, but you could combine it with Flicker Strike. I just did not like Flicker Strike. The Flicker Strike damage was not really good for single target, and I don't have a way to generate power charges against single target. However, these gloves also have a new skill which is very nice and it does a lot of damage. So it works like a Killing Palm, it culls enemies. However, when it does that, it does like a second animation which is very slow and clunky, and it procs the Shockwave. The Shockwave is actually very high damage, attack damage 1.3 thousand at high level. It also has inbuilt Culling Strike and cannot be evaded. Sadly, it's converted to Chaos, but with this skill it's a lot more easier to deal with like magic and rare monsters, because this will very often just one-shot rare monsters as well, especially if you got some, I don't know, more damage. I don't really have much damage. I'm using this duality just for damage, that's it. It doesn't really serve any other purpose. As for the passive skill tree, you kind of need to travel here to pick up these. This is quite a lot of culling strike threshold. You also may want Anointment. This one is another 20% culling strike threshold. Depends how you set it up. You don't necessarily need 120% culling strike threshold, and you don't necessarily need to be Titan. If you're not Titan and you only get the helmet, you will need to pick up all of these, get the Anointment, and also get Culling Strike 2, which does give you another 20% culling strike threshold for 20 seconds on culling with supported skill. So you don't necessarily need to cull rare or uniques to trigger this. It will grant you an extra 20%, which is essentially like an anointment. So you could get different anointment if you try to raise killing palm damage to, I don't know why you would do that, but you could get like a splash from Tribal Fury, and then killing palm would hit surrounding enemies and it probably would clear a bit better. But you can just add these gloves and not even need this expensive helmet. However, you're gonna have to start dropping enemies to lower life in order for you to start being able to cull them, which is probably gonna be unpleasant with just the gloves alone. That's why the helmet is kind of needed, and someone else must be doing something with this culling strike threshold, otherwise this helmet price jumped up quite a lot. I bought it for 6 divines and now it's like 24 divines. Even today at the start of the day I checked it and it was below 20 divines, so the price just keeps going up for some reason. As for the build, the question becomes how are you gonna deal with single target? You can cull all the enemies like instantly, including magic monsters. And by the way, in order to cull magic monsters, you need everything. You need this helmet, you need these gloves, you need the anointment, and you need the culling strike tier 2. Yeah, culling strike tier 2. Because I believe you need over 400% increased culling strike threshold. So you get 120, let's say 120 from the helmet, 200 from the gloves, 20 from anointment, 20 from culling strike 2, and then what is this, 20, 25. These actually are only 15% if you're not Titan, so that would be an extra 40%. So extra 40%, you would have 400%, and magic monsters have like as a base 20%. They can be culled below 20% health, while normal monsters are below 35%. So with this, you get exactly 100%. I'm not sure if there's like any rounding somewhere happening, but if you want to be able to cull magic monsters as well, you need pretty much everything. Like I said, this video is not gonna be about the build because I don't really like my single target. The way I set up the single target, I tried using Ice Strike or whatever the quarterstaff ice skill is. That felt okay, but it was a bit clunky as well, and needed to use the bell thing, which is very inconsistent. And later I switched to the wind blast to apply daze, and in general it just feels smooth to use this. And then vaulting impact actually feels weaker than wind blast, so I can't really recommend to do this kind of approach, but maybe you have some better ideas how to improve the single target. As a Titan, for example, I can stun enemies quite easily, but for the first stun. But I don't imagine this being able to do high tier maps, and it feels weak. It feels squishy. I have armor and I have evasion. What is this? 4.2k armor and 8.2k evasion, and it just does not feel good. This is my second character. My first character was Martial Artist, the new monk class, and it just feels so good defense wise. I was using the wielding assault with the new channeling skill, and it just feels so smooth, but it was a bit boring, and that's why I tried this experiment. So I'm kind of ready to do another build because I'm quitting this build, but if you got some interesting ideas how to maybe improve this or what else to test, let me know in the comments below. I can quickly mention that I tested repulsion with the blasphemy. It doesn't add anything to this, but maybe for your ideas it would work. If you needed to bring enemies to a bit below 100%, maybe it could work. I also tested the detonate living skill, which is also which can only be used on cullable enemies. It doesn't chain, it only hits one enemy, culls one enemy, it explodes, and the explosion itself does not have culling strike, so you would need to get culling strike for the explosion to cull nearby enemies. So, and the damage doesn't matter, so it's kind of weird skill as well. And didn't test lightning warp. What else did I test? I did test there is a body armor that summons a raven that uses your culling strike threshold, but it's very slow to randomly hit enemies and cull, and it's just not really worth doing. So I think, yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, I guess, and I'll see you probably in the next video. Bye bye.